Hello everyone, I'm Mentob64.
And I'm THD.
Welcome to the HellfireComms playthrough of Mega Man Battle Network 6 Cybeast Gregar. You guys have been asking for us to do an LP of one of the Battle Network games for years now. And I think Helldragon and I came to the conclusion in 2015 that we just can't cover the whole series. It's just too much of a chore or effort, that thing we're allergic to. So I asked him, I says, which game should we cover? And wouldn't you know it, he picked the final game in the series. Why is that?
I have to say, I think for the last game in the series, Battle Network 6 is actually my favorite throughout the entire Battle Network series. All the chips are as refined as well as they could get. The storyline's not too bad. The translation's a lot better. Gameplay is refined down to a better kind of science, if you will. And I just think it's a great note to end on. I mean, I kind of wish they did a little bit more with the series, but at the same time, kind of ending it here and sort of tying up most of the loose ends, let's be honest, is a good way to kind of send off the series. I just really like Battle Network 6 as a whole, and Gregar in particular. There were two versions, Gregar and Falzer. I just like Gregar because of all the stuff you get in that game. So that's why I decided to go for that one. And I'll be honest, the earlier ones are kind of jank, and I knew Tom would not like running them. I'm going to be honest with you here.
I've not heard a lot of good things about 4 or 5. I'm not sure which was which.
4 was the one everybody hated the most, and we can discuss more at length as we go on. 5 has some different stuff that made me quit instantly, and the storyline is really, really bad, I'll be honest with you. But at the same time, it has some other elements that don't make it horrible. Not nearly as bad as 4, of course.
What little I do know about Battle Network, the main protagonist is Lan Hikari, is that his name?
Yes, this is Lan Hikari, and his, well, I mean, we can get to it as we go. Not sure how I want to distribute this information as we're going through it, because since we're doing the last game, there's a lot of shit we have to cover. Fortunately, each game is different enough and kind of standalone to the point where all you really need to know is the basics that get set up in the first game, and then the games after that just kind of deal with their own plots with a few recurring elements that kind of transpire throughout the rest of the series.
If I had to make a comparison, the whole net navy thing, you remember how in Yu-Gi-Oh! In the virtual arc with Noah, that little shit?
Oh yes, I remember virtual arc quite vividly.
And everyone had a deck master that represented themselves and their particular deck.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but for me, I have been a...
You're gonna say stands, aren't you? That's what a net navy reminds me of.
I'm not gonna say stands. I'm not gonna say stands because I am actually a huge Battle Network fan.
Okay.
I have always loved the setting of Battle Network, and I'll explain more about the history as we go. And again, I'm trying to figure out how to layer this information properly. But it's this world much like our own now, and it's so scary how much Battle Network predicted ahead of time, where everything is connected to the internet, and everyone has something called PETs, personal electronic terminals, that have net navies on them, which are sentient computer programs like virtual assistants, legit virtual assistants, not the people you hire in India, where they, do stuff for you. You can talk to them. They're like companions, and you can fight viruses and other net navies with them. I always thought it was the coolest idea ever, and it's so scary, like I said, how modern stuff has kind of matched the Battle Network universe. The closest thing we have a net navi right now is Siri, and that's not nearly enough because I want my virus-busting action. So hopefully when I'm 80 or whatever, they'll actually make a legit net navi, because I would be so fucking there.
I'm surprised they didn't, because, you had, the Digivice for Digimon and such.
Well, yeah, but net navis are really complicated, and they have to be sentient programs, and we're not quite there yet, so I'm not really surprised that it's gonna take a while to make one, you know what I'm saying?
I will say I was kind of apprehensive about doing the last game in the series, because as you said, there's a lot of legwork and stuff to cover, go to the previous games, and we will try and summarise as best as possible. But Helldragon will be mostly leading the series, much like Mexi does the Zelda stuff, meaning I get to kick back and just do as little editing and talking as possible. But 6 is good, because right at the start, as you can see here, Lan and his family are moving away to a new town, so it's like a fresh start.
That's true. It's actually really good for the purposes of this playthrough, because we don't have to deal with so much of the background stuff, as we did in the other games. But just real quick, just to describe it, Lan Hikari, main character, his net navi is Mega Man. They live in a place called ACDC City.
Nice.
Yes, It's called AC/DC City. These are all his friends. You know, he went to school here for the majority of the other games. They fought, you know, other net navies, other evil organizations, things like that. And for some reason now they decide, okay, let's just move them out and things like that. Lan and Mega Man in particular actually share a very special connection. Again, trying to layer this information, so I don't know when I'm going to exactly talk about it. But like Tom said, I am going to kind of be taking point. I don't remember everything, because I have not actually played every Mega Man game. I've read up a lot on the lore, but I do have the Mega Man Wiki on standby, because I do not trust my memory, I'm going to be honest with you.
I know the girl there, her net navi is Roll EXE.
Yeah, it's Male Sakurai, I believe her name is. In the dub, it's Meilu. I don't know why they did that. Well, I know why. It's because the dub sucks. For the anime. Oh, we'll talk about that. But, her net navi is Roll. You know, the traditional kind of Mega Man Roll. They're not related, though. The net navis are not related. It's more like a weird boyfriend, girlfriend, on and off sort of thing. I don't know.
It's more like Legends in that regard, then.
Actually, one of the other, Lan's friends is Yai. She's got some weird name I can't pronounce. She's the rich girl. Her net navi is Glide EXE, the same Glide from Mega Man Legends.
Yep.
He's not, the personality is super different. He's not like a jerk. He's more like a butler type of guy. But, yeah, that little Mega Man Legends throwback is great. And there's actually a lot of cool little throwbacks here and there to other different Mega Man games. In particular, this game features a lot of heavy elements from Mega Man X4, of all things. One of my absolute favorite Mega Man games of all time. So I'm looking forward to kind of reliving this with you.
Oh, we'll be covering X4 later in the year, so don't worry about that. Who's that, like, fat guy, the kid in the green shirt? I believe his net navi is, like, Gutsman?
Yeah, his net navi is Gutsman. His name is Dex. I don't know his last name. He has a little brother named Chisao. I probably said that wrong. Who I think you encounter in, I want to say 3 or 4. I can't remember, because I played a beta in Mega Man Battle Network 1. 2, I haven't really done a lot of time with. 3, I've played and beaten. 4, I said, fuck this. 5, I said, fuck this. And 6, I've played both versions of this game. So I may not be, like, super expert on this, because one popular element about Battle Network, especially 2 and 3, which are really liked among people who play this competitively with their friends, because you can make some bullshit decks in those games.
Okay, so there's like a multiplayer aspect.
Yeah, something like that. And so I don't know everything, like I said, about like all the optimal stuff. I'm sure people in the comments will regale us with their Battle Network adventures.
I'm sure they will.
But I'll just do, like, you know, general talking over it. I'm trying to kind of keep it linear here, and I have a bad time with this when I have to take point on information, so please forgive me.
Yeah, don't worry, mate, don't worry. So, what is it that inspired you to get into the Battle Network series? Because, you know, the regular Mega Man games, they're 2D, like, you know, jump and shoot kind of platformers, but this is like a weird sort of hybrid RPG. It's like part turn-based, part action.
Yeah. I was introduced to Mega Man Battle Network 1 through my friend in, I want to say, you know, early high school. His name was also Matt. He's in the military now. We have actually lost contact, so I hope he's doing okay. He introduced me to Battle Network 1, and he said, this is a game, this is what I'll always remember about Battle Network 1, how he described it. It's a game where you actually have to go to school. That's how he described it, like, straight up. So, I found out because it was Mega Man, and I was always interested in Mega Man, even though I never really grew up with the classics, you know, like you, you know. Yeah. I played X4 before then, though. X4 and, like, a few of the Game Boy games. So, I borrowed it from my friend, I played it, I really liked it, although I will try to explain later how jank that game can get. They improved it. It was the first game, they improved it over time, so don't worry. And the main reason I got into Battle Network more deeply was because, and I want you to bear with me here because I was a teenager when this happened, I ran a Mega Man Battle Network themed roleplay forum.
Oh my god, I think I remember you telling me about that.
I have told several stories about this forum several times. The board was called EXE Warriors. And eventually I became an admin of that site, and we tried to, you know, do various epic kind of Battle Network themed role plays, things like that. We tried to have a battle system. It didn't go well, because forum software is not designed for the moderation a proper Battle Network kind of thing does. We were young and stupid. I'm gonna just straight up say it. But I'm not saying it was a bad experience. I had a lot of fun helping run EXE Wars, and I know some of the former admins of that site. The site's no longer around. I know some of them are actually... They watch HellfireComms routinely.
Wow.
I know Phantom Zero does. And Phantom Zero, if you're seeing this, hey dude, and I hope you're doing okay.
Hi, I'm here as well, I guess.
There's another admin called Zero. Sarah, who is... I think she's doing shit in Hollywood. I don't even remember anymore. And just like some other people. Toxic Man, I hope you're doing alright. Oh man, just... It takes me back how much I tried to make that forum good and it didn't work because I sucked. I really did not understand role-playing mechanics that well back then. I hadn't even played Dungeons & Dragons at that point. But just to get this pseudo tangent sort of at a focused endpoint here, it was nerdy and terrible and traditional fanficky shit, but I really enjoyed what I did, and that's why I still have such a huge love for the setting, you know, to this day. It's good memories in the end.
Did you have a pet or a net navvy?
Yes, I had a net navvy. He was Dragon Man EXE. Oh, nice. Those were the days. I actually I did a picture of him and I tried to enter him in the. I think starting with Mega Man Battle Network 3, they actually had create your own net navy contest where you could send in a net navy picture and like attacks and things like that. And if it was good enough, they would actually put it in the game. Starting at 3, I believe. Like, you can actually see fan-made net navies. I tried to put in Dragon Man, it didn't work, obviously. They mostly went with people from Japan, let's be honest. I think there was, like, one American winner. I don't know.
That reminds me of this old Power Rangers comic, where you could basically, you know, submit, like, a monster, and they put it in the fan art section. I never got in, because mine were terrible.
Hey, I certainly know that feeling. And, this is the, main theme of everything in Mega Man Battle Network. You've been doing this for 6 games now, basically jacking into shit that's going wrong and fixing whatever internet stuff is happening inside.
You know what one of the first things about Battle Network was that I encountered?
Let me guess, it's that picture where he has to jack into a squirrel statue?
I'll jack into a squirrel if that's what it takes.
Yeah, the translation across the games has been very inconsistent. 4 in particular is really, really bad. As a side note, if you want to look at other LPs of the Battle Network games, I highly suggest going over to the LP archive and checking out the Battle Network ones they have there. I believe he's done 3, 4, and 5, and they're actually pretty funny. They're like screenshot type format, and he gives a really good coverage on the more in-depth mechanics of Battle Network that I can't obviously go into here because I suck.
Which Let's Player is that, mate?
Oh shit, I don't remember his name. I have the wiki up, but I don't have the other thing up.
What's he not doing in the wiki? This is a travesty.
So you know what, I'm going to look that up real fast, but I will clarify that now what we're doing now on screen is the quintessential element that everybody hates in Battle Network. It's the fucking forced tutorial section, where they teach you how to play the game, even if you already know how to play the game, and you cannot skip this, ever.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, it doesn't really matter to me because it was my first time playing the game and I really needed the tutorial, but it's always good to have a choice for these types of things, especially since the Battle Network games, they seem to have a story that spans like the whole series.
Because of that continuity, it's always weird when they have to make it where, like, Lan is stupid and he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, in this game, they do it a little bit better. Like, Lan knows what he's doing, and he actually has to demonstrate some stuff later on to other people. Like, you know in Final Fantasy VII where Cloud was actually the one giving tutorials to, like, soldiers who didn't know what they were doing? It's sort of like that.
Well, I don't, but I'll just agree with you, so we can move on. Basically, the meat and potatoes of battling is you load chips into your deck, and then you use those chips in battle. I'm not entirely sure whether they're, like, perishable. Like, you can only use them once in a battle, and you might run out. I haven't gotten that deep into the battle mechanics yet, but as far as I'm aware, it's better than Paper Mario Sticker Star, so we're already starting off on a good note.
Basically, you have a chip folder of 30 battle chips, and each one is one-shot use in battle, and they replenish between battle. Think of it as a hybrid between real-time combat and collectible card games. Now, you can load up to 5 battle chips for your turn, you know, on your, you know, chip loading screen, and they have to be either the same type or the same letter code. And it's when you master these two things in that you're able to create some really interesting, complex, and highly damaging combos. In particular, like I mentioned, with Mega Man Battle Network 2, they had some ridiculous shit you could do in that game if you knew how best to use your battle chips.
If you set it up right, you could get massive damage off, or like get certain like status effects and so on.
Yeah, status effects, lots of huge area hits and things like that. And the big appeal, I think, of this series in terms of its battling is that you're operating on this grid-based system. You can like move left and right and things like that. And you can do different stuff that hits wider areas. You can like change how the panels are set up. They can be poison or ice or just destroy them completely. And you have all of these cool little tricks you can do. You can move closer, slash enemies with swords, things like that. There's a lot of fun in kind of deciding on a central strategy and building your folder around that. And Mega Man himself is customizable with different, it varies based on the game.
Yeah.
But you get stuff like different armors, different upgrades to your buster.
Yeah.
And in this game, we get access to crosses. In previous games, you got like souls and dark souls and things like that. No, not that one. You know what I mean.
From software.exe.
So it's all these kind of different options that really make this game replayable, because you can always try different shit and see how it works out.
Now, like they've been saying, you can like change like the layout of the grid, so you can have more red bleeding into the blue, but you've got to like keep a focus on like what move needs what range and so on. Like you can't just use a normal sword against an enemy that's all the way at the back. It's not going to hit it. So in that instance, you're going to want to use like range. Here, we're going to bring our side of the grid closer to the enemy and then hit him with the wide sword.
Chips that you select are basically first in, first out. Like, you can't just use whichever chip you want. Like, you have to do it in particular order. And it's important to remember this order because another big part of the game is the program advance, where you combine 3 or more chips in the right order, and once you do, it unlocks basically a secret attack that does even more damage. Yeah, and all of the best folders like use the hell out of these really broken program advances to do a ton of damage super fast to get the highest rank. You are ranked in battles, and your rank determines money you can get and whether you access particular chips, especially chips of other net navis you fight, since of course the game has to have bosses, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, the LPer of Mega Man Battle Network 4, 5, and 6, I was wrong there, 4, 5, and 6, is a guy named EPM, E-P-E-E space E-M, which I think is like 2 different forms of pronunciation in the same sentence, so.
Now this is a particularly good mechanic that you are going to want to take advantage of. That being said, I kind of like, I go balls to the walls, as it were, you know, forget the complexities of stuff. The more counters you do, the more your focus will rise, and when it's in this state right here, you can do, as Mega Man says here, double the damage. So it's a good way to end battles quickly if you're struggling.
I'm not very good at Battle Network either, but this is an important ability to have. Full Synchro is actually based on the fact, the particular interesting fact that Lan and Mega Man share, and I might as well say it now, because it's not a spoiler anymore. Basically what happened is that Mega Man is Lan's brother, Hub, who, when he was very little, died of a particularly bad disease, and what basically happened was that his father, you know, he had a first name, Yuichiro, I think his name is, Yuichiro Hikari, actually basically put Hub's mind into this new NetNavi Mega Man, and they find out, like, late in the first game that they are related and things like that, and they use a special program called Hub.bat, which basically sort of eliminates the, you know, space between these two, NetNavi and Operator. They can basically act as one. However, the trade-off is that if Mega Man were to suffer fatal damage, so would Lan. I have no idea how that works, by the way. I know you were talking how I shouldn't be talking about stands in this, but it's basically a stand now. You see where I'm going with this?
Well, it becomes even more stand-like, especially in this game with a certain mechanic that we'll be seeing soon.
Oh yeah, definitely. And when we talk more about the anime, yeah, that's gonna get particularly bad in terms of the anime bullshit they pull.
So we've basically learned all the basics of battle now. Can I just say, the fucking basic battle theme in this game is godly.
Yeah, the music is really good in this game. It has good consistency throughout the entire series, but I have to say 6 really takes it up a notch with the great music. 5 also had some really kickin' tunes, like especially when you're fighting bosses.
The old anime trope of shyness.
Well, it's more like anime trope of rudeness, because she says thanks and then she just buggers right off.
Well, she could have not said thanks.
Well, that's true. I mean, we're not doing this for the thanks, though. We're just doing this to be a hero, but I guess recognition is nice.
It's not every day you have to jack into a rabid robo-dog.
Well, I don't know. Considering how often Lan does this in this series, I would really not be surprised if he has to do this routinely once a day.
Yeah, it's not just relegated to, like, story moments. Anytime there's, like, an open terminal, you can jack in. And it'll be, like, this basic sort of layout here, where there's, like, either an item or two to find, or, you know, just people to talk to.
The internet itself also sort of functions in that layout. Like, the internet changes every game, but it's basically a multi-leveled dungeon, quote-unquote, with all sorts of, like, different paths and locked stuff and things like that. And that in particular really kind of contributed to my love of the concept of Battle Network. The idea of just kind of sending your net navvy out there just to explore shit and see what's going on. I love that kind of thing, you know?
You've talked to everyone in town. It's time to progress the story.
I'm trying to remember, like, you have a feature if you press L on, like, your shoulder button, like, Mega Man will tell you the next objective. But sometimes he'll just straight up email you and go here, stupid, you know what I'm saying?
Dad, must you judge me with your profile pic while I'm reading the email you sent me personally?
You know, the art in this game has actually been improved. They redrew everything in Mega Man Battle Network 4, where they used brighter colored sprites, more defined outlines. Before then, it was a lot more faded in terms of, like, color scheme, a lot more subtle and hinted. The outlines weren't as strong, things like that. They even redrew Mega Man's battle sprite, and this is Capcom we're talking about, and we know how much they don't like doing fucking work. So to see that is kind of astounding.
Well, this was the Capcom of the mid-2000s. Like, I'm not sure if I mentioned this at the start, I've forgotten already, but it came out in, I believe, November of 2005, and we in the West got it in, like, June of 2006.
I think I'm just trying to be specific here. Let me bring up Mr. Wiki, because I know Mega Man Battle Network 1 came out in, like, 2000, 2001. Yeah, 2001, you know, kind of all around. And, you know, like I said before, the whole fact that it's predicted so much when it comes to how we use the internet today, how technology has advanced. I mean, this thing didn't predict Google, but no, I would not have been surprised, yeah.
Google comes out of nowhere and does its own thing.
Just kind of calling back to the whole, you know, kind of exploring the internet and things like that. There was actually a game in the Battle Network series that we never got over here in the US and, you know, over there in Europe. It's called Mega Man, you know, Battle Network 4.5 Real Operation. And what that was, it basically turned your Game Boy Advance into a PET. You could pick from one of 21 different Navis, and it was kind of a side universe, quote-unquote, where basically you were that Navi's net op. Like,
ooh,
they ignored all the other stuff. You were that Navi's net op. So it would do shit for you, you could set it out on the internet, you could help it in battle. It was the coolest idea. However, there is one big reason we did not get this, and it sort of ties in with some of the stuff we are actually missing from the American version of Battle Network 6. 4.5 Real Operation actually hooked up with something called the Battleship Gate, I believe it's called, that was an accessory in Japan, where you would insert real-life battleships, you know, the plastic toys or whatever, into the device while you're playing, and it would help you out. Being Capcom, as you know, and I know you just praised them a moment ago, but the fact they were lazy enough to not get rid of this from the software basically meant they never translated it, because apparently it would have been too much work to bypass that, and that is a huge shame, because that was the quintessential manifestation of the setting I have always loved. You know, I have had this huge fan following for, and we never got anything like that. There's a fan translation, but it's bare bones, not even complete, and I don't think it's ever going to be finished, and it's just a crying shame, because I have always wanted to do something like this.
You're really passionate about the Battle Network series. It's kind of odd to see, honestly, because it's either nothing or JoJo these days.
That's true, but there has been not enough Battle Network content these days at all, because the series is over, so I haven't really had the chance to kind of gush about it as I used to, so prepare for all of that during this playthrough, basically.
A side of Helldragon you've never seen before.
Oh, people have seen me joyful before, it's just often buried by the whole negativity.
Once in a blue moon. So you'll have noticed that I kind of skipped out a battle back there. I will be doing like edits so you don't have to drown under the wave of random battles. Yes, there are random battles on this internet server.
Yeah, that's one reason why I don't replay these games, I'll be honest with you. I have never... Ever since Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga came out, I've always hated random battles, and it's especially damning at this point in the series, where even back in 2001 they were still doing this shit, and even now, like, they just decide to opt for random battles instead of, like, doing something that's less annoying. So, going throughout the internet is annoying when you run into enemies, and when you're doing dungeons later on in the game, because there's a whole bunch of dungeons in, like, every game. It just gets, like, absolutely ridiculous and tedious after a while. And did you know you had to use a battle chip in the first game to run away?
Really?
Yeah, like, from 2 onwards you could flee naturally, but you actually had to wait for a battle chip to come up in the first game in order to escape. I think it always worked, though, in comparison, so.
Okay, well, that's the first game. I can cut a little bit of slack while they were finding their feet, so to speak.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's really kind of, they really advanced and kind of upgraded a lot of things as the series went on. Maybe not as much as I would have liked, but at the same time, there has been definite improvement, and 6 really shows it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And these are the central areas. We saw Central Area 1 back there, this is Central Area 2. Get used to these, because we'll be running through it a lot throughout the course of the story.
And yeah, they have, like, pathways like this for every major site. You can go into people's computers, and there's, like, you know, all these little platform areas and things like that. So naturally, we have to wonder what the 4chan platform would look like.
Just the same as everyone else, mate, I would imagine. Okay, new type of enemy, the Gunner. What type of attack do you think they like to use?
I believe they actually send down a reticle, yeah, depending on the path you're in, and if they, you know, target you, they will attack that particular area. A lot more, you know, a bit more challenging to deal with than the usual kind of standard cannon enemies that they had earlier in the series.
That moment when you make a sarcastic quip to Helldragon and he answers truthfully and correctly.
Hey, I'm trying to be, you know, correct about this, because if I'm going to gush about this series, I might as well be as accurate as possible in huge quotation marks.
You saw that I pushed that enemy back on his grid. That's a particularly useful trick to use when you're in a bind.
You also destroyed a piece of data back there, and if you had left that alone, when you defeated all the enemies, you would have actually gotten what was in that data cube. I believe that was an addition more around the recent ends of the game. I think they had it in 5, and I know we have it in this game, obviously.
I thought you had to destroy it to get it. That's my bad.
Hey, no problem. This is your first Battle Network game, after all. I'm not gonna, like, fault you if you mess up anything, because I sure as shit ain't a master at these.
I will try and get as many of the items in each battlefield, so to speak, as I can. I'm going via, like, an FAQ, but if I miss some, that's my bad.
Yeah, I mean, like, I certainly didn't find everything, and some of this stuff is just kind of obscure to get to, and honestly annoying with the random battles, and, like, sometimes, like, the passageways you have to take and unlock, and things like that. It's really convoluted for the internet, I noticed, but then again, I suppose that's standard. It's either pathways or a series of tubes, you know, either or, you're just gonna be lost.
I love the way you can charge up your Buster. It's retaining a little bit of that classic Mega Man, and you can even shoot lemons at your enemy. It's great. It doesn't do much until you charge it, but it's more than enough to, you know, annoy the enemy, and that's what matters in the end.
Yeah, there's a lot of callbacks to the classic series, and as we go on, I'll try to kind of lay out how exactly it plays back to the classic series in its own light, so hopefully I can get that information organized.
And I believe by speaking to this guy, we'll actually trigger the story to move on. There's a lot of, like, oh, you have to talk to everyone in a given area before, you know, Mega Man will pipe up and say, okay, Lon, it's time to move on.
Yeah, definitely. So it can be a little obtuse at times, but just generally be a pest, and usually that works out.
Well, at least it's no Jabba Jabba's belly in Oracle of Ages.
Yeah, I warned you about that, motherfucker. Oh, I guess you're remembering it now.
Yes, well, no, I just recently beat it, because I picked up Oracle of Ages and Seasons and Link's Awakening DX and, you know, the first Legend of Zelda. The 2 Oracle games and the first Legend of Zelda I've never actually beaten, and Link's Awakening, well, it's Link's Awakening, I just wanted to get it for a bit of fun.
That's fine, that's fine. It's definitely, you know, a good one. My favorite Zelda, as I've said before.
As I said back in our Retraining Memories, every day except Friday that we upload Battle Network on, you'll get 2 videos, and that does include Saturday and Sunday, so we'll see you this afternoon for another part. Bye-bye.